Salut les crapauds sexy. On est là, on pète beco. On aime aussi les chats. Oh mon Dieu, quel bel match dimanche. Salut Satan.
The most hilarious thing about this is that the moment you started doing this, Beppy started biting you and attacking your arm.
Now that I embarrassed myself and probably drove away anyone that listens to us from a French-speaking country, hello.
Welcome.
We are finally doing it.
I have finally finished this game.
He has finally finished a game. You know that doesn't happen often with Vol. Usually they're abandoned. Or they take like 500 years for them to be completed.
Yeah, and considering the genre of this game, this was me going on breaknecking?
Bricknecking.
I was playing...
You bricknecks.
I was going at the speed of light playing it. Finally got there.
Well, I had finished it 5 months ago. You finished it like 2 hours ago. So, yeah, we're here.
It wasn't 2 hours. It was a week. I've had a little bit of time to think about it. It took me 5 months to finish, which is record time for me for such a long game. Which, actually, I say such a long game, but it wasn't very long considering the genre it is.
How long was it? I think I spent around 90 hours in it.
I think my in-game clock was 79 hours.
Okay, so basically you left some side stuff.
I left only one thing. You know which one it is. I did spend about perhaps 5 hours trying that one thing and then gave up. So my system clock says something else, which, hang on a minute, I have taken a note of it, but I've forgotten. I have a notepad where I keep notes about my games. Right. I started playing 16th of June, 2025. I finished 16th of November, 2025. So exactly 5 months. System clock was 4 days and 22 minutes. And in-game was 79 hours, 56 minutes, and 54 seconds. And coming off the back of our previous episode, I got 46 out of 55 achievements.
I have a question. Why do you have a physical notepad that you note things about games in it?
Because I like writing.
What do you write about the games?
First impressions, and then I keep a log of when I started something and when I finished it and what are my final thoughts on it. As soon as I finish. So this is like the raw impressions at the end of the game, almost as a diary, and to help me remember the emotional impact of the ending and how it shapes the whole game at that point, and then I can go back and refine when we talk about things.
Are you doing this specifically for the podcast? Or
no, actually, I started doing this first for books, and then I'm like,
okay.
You know what? I'm going to start doing it for games as well.
You know, there's like IGDB and stuff where you can write things.
I don't care to do that because sometimes I don't have a PC on when I'm playing, and I don't want to be logging all this stuff online somewhere on more and more accounts. I have a notepad.
Cool. Okay, so how have we been? What has been going on?
I have been playing Clair Obscur, actually.
Oh, great. So it's the 23rd of November today.
Yeah.
Potentially our opinions of things may change over time.
So how are we talking about this game? Let's give people a little bit of an idea of how we're approaching this.
So we start off by listing each ending and talking about it in detail. And then we're gonna go ahead and read Reddit comments about why they fucking hated the ending and see people fighting about what the correct ending is. Then we're gonna find random people's numbers and we're gonna call them and we're gonna ask them if they played Clair Obscur and if there's an ending. And then I'm gonna annoy Beppy, she's gonna bite me, I'm gonna scream in the microphone, it's gonna clip, and it's gonna be unusable.
That sounds like a very good episode. I'm stoked.
So in the end...
Right.
We're talking today about Clair Obscur. I think introducing Clair Obscur at this point is a bit redundant. Everyone knows what it is. But
let's try and do it anyway, because there may be some people who don't really follow the...
Okay. Clair Obscur is a JRPG made by French people.
But hang on. Before we do that, just because I, as someone who is sensitive to spoilers, I want to give like a warning or at least a roadmap for our listeners to what to expect if someone wants to preserve their experience of the game, just to hear our non-spoiler opinions on it, to get an idea of whether they want to play it or not, and if they do, they can like nope out at some point, and then we can continue with the rest of the listeners who either have played it or don't intend to play it, where we go into full spoiler mode. So we'll talk a little bit about the premise, and we'll discuss audio design, general art direction, gameplay, not in super detail the gameplay, because I also consider gameplay spoilers to an extent. So we're going to try to keep things clean up to a point, and then we'll demarcate it very clearly that this is the end of that section, and we're going into spoilers. So anyone who wants to just stop there, they can stop there. Right?
Right, yeah. Clair Obscur is a JRPG, in all intents and purposes, not made by Japanese people, but made by fans of JRPGs that they made it in France. The developers are Sandful Interactive.
Mm-hmm.
I had no fucking clue who they were or any of the game dropped like sneak attack bombed on me, at least. I had seen a trailer. It piqued my interest, but it did not stay in my brain like much. Like I remember that I watched it. I don't remember being like, oh, cool, I should check that. But I never went for it. Other things stayed in my mind.
For me, the music had stood out and the art direction had already stood out, and I loved the premise. But I was very apprehensive because it was a JRPG.
Not made by Japanese people.
We're using JRPG as a genre, not the country here.
We both feel a bit different for the game. So I think it is worth, before going into anything in more detail, to say how we generally feel.
Okay.
On the warm, lukewarm scale, like how do we feel about the game? What is our, in 5 words, like, because I think what we're going to be speaking about later on will benefit from everyone knowing how do we both feel.
After having played it and finished it, I think this game is a flawed masterpiece, and I would put it next to stuff like Shadow of the Colossus and Silent Hill, in my opinion. I have strong criticisms for certain gameplay design decisions and combat. I will say that I didn't click with the combat as much as you did, and that caused me a lot of suffering. Some of that was due to my own stupidity. And I'll get to that.
We'll mention that later, yeah.
I'll get to that. But it wasn't just that. Like, I had some very, very strong words about a particular enemy that I am not going to back down, but it's not that important at the end. And it's not that important in a way that I think, from the way I've interpreted the game, fits thematically. Like, I don't hold it against it in the end. I will criticize it for the particular design choices that they did. But that's okay. And I will say, on top of this, because I may become harsh on occasions about this game, I have games that I absolutely love and they're super important in my life, and I criticize the hell out of them. Like, Mass Effect is one of the most important games I've played in my life, and I think it's a hugely problematic game, and it cannot even stand next to Clair Obscur in many ways because of those problems. So if I love something, I tend to be very I tend to take it very seriously, and I tend to be very critical of it because I love it. That's something that I want listeners to keep that in mind. I'm not shitting on it when I'm doing that. It's because I love it.
And for anyone that is curious, like, when Vol first started playing the game, he was so negative
Yes.
that at some point I started telling him, just stop playing the game. Just fucking don't play it anymore. There's no point. If you're not sold yet, just leave it.
I disagree. Yeah, I disagree on that suggestion that you gave me, because
at the time, I thought you were just being inflammatory and reactive, and you were not gonna allow yourself to appreciate it. So I'm very pleasantly surprised that this actually changed. that you actually gave it a chance and you stuck with it and you actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, because I still tried to have an open mind, partly because of how much it seemed to mean to you. And when that happens, I am genuinely curious to understand what that particular piece of art has that can have that effect on someone, like on someone that I care about their opinion, right? And take them seriously and respect them, not like random people on the internet, obviously. I'm open to changing my mind if something is able to change my mind. Like, okay, I had a very negative impression. I had a very positive impression starting it, and then it went downhill quite quickly. I'll get into that when we get into spoiler territory. But then slowly I came around because of how a lot of things were contextualized. And then I'm like, right, I don't know how differently you can do this now that I have seen other things and I understand. Perhaps we can get into that, like how they could have potentially done something differently to not risk losing someone, like they almost lost me. But yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about it in a bit. But you touched a little bit about it, that this game meant a lot to me. To me, the game clicked almost immediately. I liked the gameplay from the get-go. I did not encounter these issues that you did. My main qualms come in some gameplay sections, and those are my only real criticism. Really substantial, let's say, criticism. The rest is like nitpicks or not non-existent stuff. Upon completion, I think I said to you as well that it is in my top 3 games of all time. I don't feel comfortable ranking between them or whatever, but knowing how evocative some games have been for me, this is there. This is up there. So we're talking about one of my favorite games of all time, which is strange. Whenever it happens, I'm surprised because I never think that. I never expect, like I always expect to be impressed because if I don't, it's not fun to approach things. I never expect going somewhere and leaving thinking that this is one of my favorite things ever. It is always a surprise whenever it happens, and I'm always very pleasantly surprised to do it. And I'm very happy that our friend Joe did say that it's a masterpiece before I started playing it, because I went, now I've heard 3 people saying that this is a very, very good game. Like, so I'm gonna go buy it, and I did. And holy shit!
I should acknowledge here, in a self-deprecating moment, that I, as I've mentioned before, and we have joked about it, can be a little bit contrarian sometimes. So when I hear like gushing praise about something, I start to go, I don't know, let's see. And going very skeptical. So if you hadn't told me anything about it, it's possible that I would have persisted a bit more with it without complaining so much about it, because I was expecting to be blown away so much that I'm like, what the fuck? But that's a me problem. I tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah. So that's our general thoughts on it. So let's move on. So you play as Gustave in a city called Lumiere. Something fucked up has happened. It's like a post-apocalypse type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a broken version of Paris, almost, it looks like.
Yeah, not a lot is explained. And these people live really horrible lives because every year a deity that's very, very far away in the horizon wakes up and writes a number on top of a monolith. Like, you can see it up in the horizon in the sky. And whoever is that old, as the number indicates, will die the next year.
We should note that is a countdown. Like, it's not a random number. It started...
It's a descending order.
Yeah, it started, what, like 66, 67 years ago, if I remember correctly?
67, yeah.
Yeah, and we're down to 34 when the game opens up. And it's on the day that it's supposed to turn to 33. So everyone that is 33 that year will die.
Yes. So what you need to do is basically join an expedition which happens every year that try to go and stop this creature, and they head off, never to be seen again.
Well, at least that's how it's happened all the previous years up to now.
No one has returned before.
And it seems at this point that from how just what we're discussing here is the first hour of the game, so prologue. Basically.
We're still not in spoiler territory. We're gonna let you know.
Don't worry about it. But the vibe you get is that it's a celebration almost of it. Like they've tried to make it into something that is a whole ceremony that seems almost celebratory in the way it happens.
Yes.
It's a very strong juxtaposition emotionally and visually to how dire their situation is. And you see also how dire the situation is because of the numbers of the people who are signed up, at least this year, for the expedition is a very, very small.
Yeah. Thinking that there's no person older than 33.
And it immediately brings up questions about whether there's any point like having children in this world, whether that is selfish or not, whether there's any point living in this situation.
Or even if there's any point trying to make it stop.
Yeah. Immediately, something that stood out to me was how lovely the music was from the first seconds of the game.
Okay, let's talk about the music.
Yes, I'm dying to just bring that in because it was like one of the first immediate impressions that I had was, dude, this music is lovely.
Yeah, it is very hard to talk about it in words because in like the way it sounds like a very ridiculous an anime kind of idea. It's very exaggerated and very over the top
as a premise.
So as a premise,
yeah. It's standard JRPG stuff at this point. It's a team of mortals going up against a god and the end of the world. It
is classic JRPG, but it's very evocative and emotional, the whole thing. Like, I found the beginning of the game absolutely devastating. I remember I had to take a break because of how intense it is, and I believe that the music was very much part of that.
Yeah, for me as well.
When it was a very weird beginning because no game has grasped me so hard so quickly, basically. One other game did.
Yeah, it was that, but it was also a combination, I think, of the dialogue lines that the game starts with. I think they're very, very strong in setting the themes up. It seemed every word and every line in the prologue seems very intentional to me to set up themes. To even if you think about everything said in that opening hour after you've played the game, it all makes sense in a way that you rarely see it in video games. I would expect this kind of writing in literature and good films. And perhaps the first Last of Us.
That is what I was going to mention as well. I think the opening of The Last of Us also was extremely strong. I will say I think what The Last of Us had that this didn't have was a lot of good examples and a lot of good building material to build upon a genre of story, which is the road trip post-apocalypse, two people uniting over a common cause.
Yeah, and we have a certain novel and a certain film based on that novel that this game feels very, very much inspired by or influenced. Not that there aren't influences apparent and clear obscure, but their influences are very much Japanese RPGs, which tend to be very goofy.
Yeah, that's the thing. The challenge these people had to create a touching and emotional story, it was much, much bigger. So it is impressive that it got pulled off to the extent it did.
Yeah.
Music is fantastic. And from what I read, basically the developers of the game approached a guy on Bandcamp that made basically this for them. And there were moments that I was you don't need to go this hard. And they were just some of the most emotionally charged songs that I've ever listened to. Themes that were so like earwormy, but also beautiful, and such a stylistic just match between visual and audio in this case. Like, genuinely fantastic job. And this person's they're gonna have a career ahead of them. Whoever, like the person that works on this.
It's not just one person, because the vocal composition and arrangement for certain songs was from the singer. And she is amazing as well.
Also, you might see them going around and doing gigs right now in Europe, which they look so good. I really want to. Please come to the UK so I can go.
The composer's name is... Do you want to try to pronounce it? Because I don't speak any French.
Well, because I speak French.
Well, you started with an attempt at it, so there you go.
Attempt is the polite way of saying it. Lorient Testard?
Lorient Testard.
Lorient Testard.
What's the singer's name?
Alice Dupont-Percier, among other people, because it is a big... It's an orchestra in the end. Like, it's a fully orchestrated soundtrack.
Yeah. The thing that I really appreciated as well was that there was one particular song about a character, but it did not have actual words sung to not spoil the character and the character's arc. So there aren't any words being sung in that particular song. Like other artists do that, like Dead Can Dance do this a lot, and I really like it as an approach.
Later on as well in the game, the songs do spoil. If you know French, can spoil the story itself.
That's the only thing that I felt I missed out a bit on, because a lot of songs have French lyrics, and I don't speak French.
I read the lyrics. Some songs played earlier on in the game, and if you could understand what they were saying, potentially that could have clued you up to what was going to happen next. So,
but then surely that's intentional from the developers, otherwise they wouldn't have done it.
Definitely. I am happy that I was blind, let's say. That I got to the end without understanding what exactly they were saying. Like, I was catching names.
Right.
And very basic words, but I did not really know what they were talking about.
Having said that, without context, the things that the opening of the game foreshadows don't really stand out as much. They stand out as poetic dialogue, but I think I could have made connections, or it would have spoiled something, because you don't know enough to be spoiled at that point.
Yes, but there were some motifs and some items that were discussed or mentioned a little bit more, to the point that anyone that is a little bit inquisitive would be like, well, now, why are you saying this name again? This starts to sound important. And this happened to me a few times, but very intentionally avoided understanding the lyrics.
Yeah. We should mention as well that this game is very, very, very French. And I'm not saying this is a criticism. I loved it.
Unapologetically so.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful for that. Like, there is a lot of authenticity and uniqueness, because it's just a completely new approach in stories. Because all the stories tend to be, for better or worse, Americanized.
Yeah.
Like, everything is always focused toward the US and is more US-centric. So culturally, not a lot of things make it through. It's with JRPGs, actually, that a lot of culture comes through them, because especially with Final Fantasy games, like, what I've noticed is a lot of mythology and beliefs make it in there.
Yes, but even those can often be an amalgamation of Japanese culture and American culture, the way Japanese people view it. And Final Fantasy lately has become so... I don't know, Final Fantasy 16 was too British medieval wankery.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16 was Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, which, I don't know, it's very disappointing to me. So, but even when it's Japanese, we tend to get American and Japanese stuff. And you don't see a lot of European representation. It gave me a vibe of like French art house cinema as it started. I'm saying
Yeah.
this because I know some people may be put off by this. So know this going in.
I was gonna acknowledge it that it is very hot to hate certain cultures,
Which
and
I don't
whatever.
understand. Like I was listening to some podcasts, and I'm not gonna name names here, but they were saying how this game is so French, I can't stand it, and I'm like, okay, because the American stuff are so great.
I never understood the hate to begin with. French cinema can be some of the most humane like centers when it comes to cinema culture and everything, that like their humanist and realism like approach to life is just so, I don't know, understandable and warm. So I never had this issue.
Yeah, me neither.
But I know it's hot to hate the French for some reason. Don't, I would say, put your differences aside when it comes to art, because art is universal, and that might make you go there. To me, it was also delightful that they were very French, but also they were poking fun on the stereotypes that anyone would think about the French. And this is the most classic example is the baguette outfits, which is literally a baguette, like an outfit that's called baguette. And It has a beret, a striped shirt, and a baguette tied up on the character's back.
Yeah, like a weapon. It's amazing. I had them all dressed up like that at some point, and you were like, just bear in mind that these outfits are preserved in cutscenes, so it may like ruin the seriousness and gravity of some of them. I'm like, okay, right. Should just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I did avoid using them a lot, to be honest. I only started using goofy outfits at the end of the game,
Right.
after the things happened.
Okay.
So I basically, whenever I was emotionally active, I was not using them because I was gonna laugh, and I didn't want to laugh.
As a JRPG, and this is probably a good segue to get into gameplay here.
Yeah,
there is an open world overview of a world the way you have in the genre. You do some exploring and you do some grinding, like that kind of stuff. It was relatively safe. I thought it was relatively safe to just wear some silly outfits and experiment a bit and be playful. And there are sections of the game where it invites you to be playful.
The game in general treads a fine line between goofy and serious.
There's a lot of humor, basically. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Dark and light and everything, but we'll talk about it
Well,
later.
that's the whole point in Clair Obscur, right?
What? Gameplay is... So it is a rhythm-based, parry/dodge-focused, turn-based RPG fighter.
You take Final Fantasy X, you mix it up with The Lost Odyssey, and then you sprinkle a bunch of Sekiro on it.
Sekiro, yes. I agree with the Sekiro. To me, it's Final Fantasy meets Sekiro means Patapon.
I'm saying The Lost Odyssey because The Lost Odyssey had a couple of things that I think this game expanded on, which one is... you've not played The Lost Odyssey, right?
No, I want to, based on how you've talked about it. But yeah.
And I know it was a huge influence for these people. It's not the only game that has had active elements as a JRPG, but like they had in The Lost Odyssey, you play an immortal and you come across other immortals that cannot learn skills themselves. You learn them through the party members, and then you equip rings that have those abilities that you've learned. Does it sound familiar?
It sounds like how the upgrading happens in Clair Obscur.
Yeah. It's not as complex and deep as in Clair Obscur, but it's there. And then in the attack, you have an active element where you need to time some trigger releases as you attack to get maximum bonus or effects or whatever modifiers on your attacks. So there are a lot of similarities between the two, and I think there are a lot of similarities in some way on themes about purpose of living But I'm not gonna go further into that in this section of the episode. So that's why I said that one in particular. You're not a big JRPG person. I used to play a lot of JRPGs growing up, but then I fell off, so I have gaps. So there may be other influences in there this game has built on that I'm not aware of. Just keep that in mind, whoever's listening. But yeah, the Sekiro part is perhaps more interesting.
Yeah, because the game expects you to react to every attack you receive, and reacting in some form of dodging or parrying, which each one comes with its own benefits and minuses, let's say. It is very dependent on you to understand the rhythm, understand timing, and learn your opponent's movements. And as it did with you, it's something that I expect to not be particularly welcoming to a lot of people.
Especially, I think, to fans of JRPGs, because I've spoken to other people who play JRPGs, and their attitude was that I play these games to chill, not to, like, in the combat, to just line up commands and have them executed, not be active all the time. I will say that even though I found it very difficult and I almost bounced off because of the combat, it did make it more interesting and engaging, in my opinion, for me. And the things you need to pay attention to is not just visuals, but it's also audio. And that makes it confusing sometimes, because there's a lot of animation that happens from the enemies and a lot of feign attacks. And you have to pay attention both to what they're doing, but also to what the attack sounds are. And it can become a little bit overwhelming because some of them are very fast. And initially, the game, before they updated and added some quality of life things in it, it was way more punishing. You had to die a few times. At least I had to die a few times before I learned how to parry some enemies. And then you have to go and do all the things again and reload. Whereas eventually now, anyone who goes and plays it now, you can just restart the encounter when you die.
Yeah, that looks like a good addition. On my side, I did not really have an issue learning the game, and I found the challenge coming in increments. So when something new and more dangerous was coming, I was already given the time to grow both JRPG, like in-game speaking, but also like myself, my timing. I did not have an issue learning attacks. Like, and up to even the hardest bit of the game, I was still able to learn and read and react.
Like, I learned them eventually. It was so different. It felt so punishing and hard. Like, because you can rely a bit more on dodges. But if you rely on dodges, the counters become more difficult in a way, because when you parry, you do counters, and sometimes those counters can do significant amounts of damage and also break enemies, delay their attacks and all that. If you don't do parries, you're going to have a harder time, I think, through the game.
Yeah, the game will certainly last longer.
Yes. So there's that, and also it's very difficult even on story mode. It's not forgiving. The story mode is a little bit easier in that I think the windows are a bit more generous, and the damage
you get less damage.
You get less damage, yes, but like that's it. I was still getting my ass kicked if I wasn't paying very close attention and actually taking every combat encounter seriously. I did something stupid, however, and I don't know if I should say what that stupidity was here or later.
No, I think it's part of the main gameplay bit. Like, you can talk about it. It's fine.
Okay, because I think it's very early on. I don't know how early on you get this item. So
you do get it quite early.
Like, you can have like really in-depth builds for characters and synergy between them, and you get a secondary party eventually where if your first party falls, you have the backup party come in, so you can perhaps set them up in a way to be an effective backup party. And this way it gives you a bit of a chance to learn the enemy patterns, and then the second party comes in, and now you know what you're doing. plus how you've built them to be more effective as a last stand, you could even, like, I don't know, have only two people on your main party so that your backup party is 3 people instead of like the other way around. So there's that. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens there. But there's a damage cap that you have, which is 9,999, which is a very familiar thing for anyone who's played, like, I don't know, Final Fantasy. And I did not think that I could go higher than this. Until at some point, I started getting like items that would give like extra percentages of damage. And I'm like, but I'm doing the max. Like, what is this? Is this hidden and I don't see the numbers? And it didn't make any sense to me. And as I was getting through the game, you get what you normally get in these JRPGs, where you get enemies with like ridiculously long life bars. We're talking millions of HP. And I was coming across them, and every encounter was taking me like 40 minutes, an hour, where I had all the patterns down, and it was just a matter of, okay, doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, like attacks upon attacks upon attacks upon counters. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And at some point, scrolling through my items, I realized this is a fucking item that lifts the damage cap. And I don't know how long I've had it. And I'm like, oh my fucking, I'm so fucking stupid. Yeah, and that changed it to the extent that, and it was so late in the game that I discovered this, that there is a grind area where you can go to, resembling a little bit Persona with the tower. And I'm like, I'm gonna get through it now just to enjoy the fact that I can actually do damage during combat. So yeah, on some level, that stupidity cost me a lot of frustration and ire at the game. But then I ended up enjoying it so much more as a contrast. So thematically, it almost seems to fit with the dark and light.
A friend of mine had made a similar blunder when they were playing the game, and he went through most of the game without understanding that what you mentioned before with the abilities that you give them to one person. Basically, what you have in this game is a thing called the Picto. The Picto is basically an ability. You assign them to a person, and when the person or your character of your team does a few encounters with it, he learns it. So then you get a permanent item, a Lumina, that you can assign to anyone.
And it costs some skill points or something. Yeah.
Some point limit, yeah. And a friend of mine did not realize that you can assign those Luminas after they get learned to the characters. So all the characters had a 0 out of 250 Luminas that they could use. And
oh no, that's even worse.
And they were like almost at the end of the game. So they were like, I don't know why I'm like, I know that I have to use this person to do all the damage because I cannot assign that thing to anyone else. They're the one that do the most damage. And I'm like,
oh, that sounds painful.
Have you checked that section in the menu? And they were like, oh my God. And then they were like, the game is so easy now. So it sounds like it's more than you. And I think I've heard another person doing a similar goofy thing with the Luminas.
I think I put it down to this game having a bit of an overwhelming amount of information and systems that throws at you.
In the beginning, it is complicated because I also felt a bit overwhelming because when they were giving you all these names, Pictos, Luminas, dodge, thing, that kind of thing.
Because there's different kinds of dodges and different kinds of parries as well.
Yeah. I did find it overwhelming in the beginning, so I understand how someone would just skip through one fucking tutorial menu and suddenly lose. Yeah. And I think that's what happened there. But it was very funny.
The enemies even have multiple different attacks and stages and different, as I said, different parry and different dodge conditions. So it's a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know, if your timing timing challenged, it may be something that might be a bit tough.
Yeah.
But hey, my girlfriend, who's not a veteran game player, finished the whole game.
Wow, okay.
She did struggle. She did have to learn a lot of timing, but she learned it. She was fine with it. So clearly the game knows how to teach it. It needs more patience than your general run-of-the-mill, open-worldy, chill games. And I would say also very hard return difficulty. Like if you leave it for a while and you return...
For sure.
Like 3 or 4 weeks later, I think it will be punished.
It is. Itself. Yeah, it's very hard.
Similarly to a Dark Souls, Bloodborne thing.
In some ways, it's even worse because in Dark Souls, you can get away with positioning yourself. That's why I was saying to you when I first started playing it and I was struggling with the combat in that it has those from software elements, but I cannot use the environment and positioning to my advantage. I'm stuck in one position and all I can do is parry.
Because with Dark Souls, at least you can approach it in different ways as well. You can learn to block, you can make your character faster or make your character roll faster. You can decide to parry more, you can decide to roll more. Like there is a little bit more flexibility, while in this, you have to learn the timing. There is no other way out.
And you never get enough hit points to be able to tank something. That's the other thing. Like there are enemies after a certain point that will one hit kill you.
Yeah,
if you miss those windows.
You need to be careful.
This is where some of my more harsh criticism comes in. There are certain spikes in difficulty I found, and certain enemies that require certain builds, and towards the end of the game, it seems to me that the game favors builds that are meant to do millions hit point damage in order to get through some enemies. Because if they get a chance to hit you, you're dead. And some are punishing enough to remove your characters completely if you fail. And then you're left with, basically, unless you do the most cheesy build ever, it becomes, for me, it became impossible. And I was playing on story mode.
And that is one of the things about this game that I appreciate, but I can also see how it's a risk. Both story-wise and gameplay-wise, it has some things that are just downright hostile, to the point that I think that they definitely lost audience. Because both massive swings on the gameplay side and massive swings on the story side. I don't think they played it safe in either way, and I appreciate it.
I don't know if I appreciate the boldness, but the misses are not because, in my opinion, they were bold and brave, but they overdid some stuff. Having said that, a lot of what I'm talking about is optional content.
Nothing is optional for me. I'm the completionist. Your intervention did nothing. I have not changed.
Well, you finished this way before the intervention, so there's that.
I also got the platinum, but organically I did not have to chase much.
So I was quite angry, frustrated, and irritated at the game with one particular enemy. Because,
I'm so angry.
Because it ties narrative bits or little bits of story to almost all the side stuff. And that's the bit that bothered me. Wasn't I'm gonna go on this island here and grind some turtles or something because I enjoy the challenge. There was something that meant something there with pretty much everything almost. So it seemed to me that if I chose to let an optional content go, I was letting go of something meaningful. But this fits with the theme of the fucking game. That's the genius of this game. So even though I hated that particular bit I'm talking about, once I finished, and it bothered me because at some point I made a decision of, okay, I'm not going to do this.
You can be less cryptic with this because all these games have a secret final boss. Vole is talking about is a secret final boss.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, a secret final boss, yes. which was way more difficult than the actual bosses of the game. So much so
the
that
spike
I'm
was huge. The spike was bigger than the other secret final boss that thought was the actual secret final boss, but wasn't, because then I found another secret final boss, which was harder.
I'm not sure which one the other secret boss you're mentioning is, because the only other thing that gave me serious trouble was visible in the map, from very far.
I will go into that later.
Yeah. Anyway,
there is another boss in a high level right before that boss that you're talking about, and without
I think I know what you mean. I was okay with that one.
Okay, see, that was the next harder one. I know the spike to that secret final boss was super big, but while what I'm saying is that they take big swings with what they're doing. And I know that they're going to lose some audience. They did not lose me, because with that boss that you're talking about, I kind of loved it.
I have not hated a boss as much as this boss, I think, in any game I played, perhaps with the exception of Resident Evil Code Veronica.
I'm so sure you played worse bosses, but I don't even think this is a bad boss. I think it was a fantastic boss, but it was one of the hardest challenges I've ever taken on a game. And the moment that I actually beat it, I squealed like a fucking schoolgirl that saw their favorite boy band. I was so shocked that my experimentation and puzzle solving almost that I did to beat that fucker was so successful in the end. It was a massive surprise, because it was both brain and mechanics and my mechanical skills and reactions that were all together holistically led me to actually beat something that seemed insurmountable. So I found it super exciting.
Let's not get stuck on this particular boss because it's not that important. Yeah. But I'm glad you had that experience. From my perspective, I think that boss is complete bullshit.
I understand that no one can convince you, but we're going to go into detail in a bit, in the spoiler discussion maybe, because it also ties in a bit with the story as well. All right.
But as I said, thematically, this game starts with something that seems completely unfair, cruel, and letting go of things. And that experience of, this is meaningful here, but it's complete bullshit. I'll move on. It's somehow I tied it in my head. And when I finished it, and we'll get to that in a little bit, it made even more sense. And now I don't care that I didn't beat that boss. In some ways, I'm glad I didn't.
Okay.
So, short side note. This game had, before we wrap it up and bid goodbye to the people who don't want the spoilers, this game had some platforming sections.
That is where I said that my major qualm comes in with the game. This is my only major qualm. So the game is 3D moving, but it's not a 3D platformer.
No.
And it shows some platforming in there, and characters are a bit slippery, and they don't control fantastically because they're not made to control like that and be used in very precision based platforming things.
Not just precision based, some of them require you to be also very fast through those sections.
Yeah, there was the timed one, yeah.
Even more annoyingly, so the way you move is kind of floaty. And also when you run and jump, you always do a roll.
Yes, if there is a slight descent in height, your character will automatically roll, which means if you land on a small platform, you fall.
Yeah.
So a lot of failure, and I think that there was one of these side sections. They're called the beaches for some reason. One of them actually made me very, very, very angry for the first time in a game in a long, long while.
Yeah, I noped out so quickly after some part of me, because I can get stubborn with some of these things, because they have a racing component in them. But like the collision detection was bad in those things, or like I couldn't trust it. Sometimes I would jump on a platform and he wouldn't fucking grab it because it was like half a centimeter off. And then if I tried to compensate, he would just roll and fall over. And I'm like, I fucking hate you. Why would you even do this? Like, your game is not like the engine, and the way you've made the whole movement is not meant for this. Why?
Yeah, there is a certain theme to them, which is extremely goofy, and it doesn't really matter if you don't do it. But at the same time, I was struggling to understand what the real purpose of this was.
I think thematically they made sense. They should have just made something else that worked with the movement model and animation and jumping and all the stuff they had. Like, make something that can work within your engine.
It very much felt like you were trying to shove a square in a circle hole. It did not fit.
Yeah, they could have done what they did thematically with something with different challenges, I think. But anyway, that was a huge miss.
Yeah, those beaches as well for me. Really, it was only one that gave me real trouble, but it still was a miss.
I think I only completed one of them.
I completed them all. I
don't. Did.
I regret doing it. They pissed me off, and I just don't understand how they were a good choice. Honestly,
nah.
And this is the only negative thing I have to say about the game. Like, clearly, like, it scored so high for me, and it means so much to me that it still is one of my favorite games of all time. It's just that this side content, I will never complete it again.
You can safely ignore this as a player.
Yeah, there's no real loss for you to not do it.
You get some items, but okay.
Yeah, you get a costume and an achievement if you care about those. But that's about it. Like, I would say, if you don't click with it and you if you're to piss yourself off, don't do it. Don't be like me.
Yeah, like if you're a completionist and you approach this game as a completionist, you're gonna suffer a lot on occasion.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that generally just, we talked about it in the previous game as well, and I should have episode in the previous episode. I should have known when I played this game to have this mentality that I have now. But hey, it's growth.
Yeah. So what's our final? How do we close this off before we head into spoiler territory?
My final thing is, if you haven't played it, please do. I know it sounds daunting. My partner, she's not a gamer, TM, but she was fine. She played through this game. She managed to. You can do it as well, most likely because the people that are listening to us have experience in video games, or some experience.
Yeah, I doubt anyone's listening to this who's not really into video games.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Why would you do that?
You can go through it, you can do it. It is a beautiful experience. So as a final thing, let's discuss the story as spoiler-free as we can, to at least understand where do we stand there.
So we've set up the premise, right? And I've talked about a little bit thematically that it's about perhaps going up against something that seems insurmountable, and all the while cognizant of the existential weight of every choice you make and everything that you do, because you know the time is running out, and it's very obvious, and it's a huge reminder always there. So the challenge, I think, that people have in that world is to find a reason to keep trying when it doesn't seem to make sense, and how to live with the grief, whether that is the grief about the people you've lost or the grief about your own impending demise that is coming very quickly. There's an anticipation of loss that permeates everything in this game.
Yeah, and this is like a very primal fear. Like the situation that these people are in is so dire and horrible, and it gets sold to you super quick.
And the main character, Gustav, is a very, brilliant example of a male character in a very grim situation who can be playful, who can be soft, who can be kind, who can be hopeful, and also strong.
Yes. One of the things that this game does is that they literally just crumble some character archetypes. And I believe that Gustav is the earliest example of that you get, and you can expect that the trend continues in the rest of the story without us having to talk about other people in depth or whatever, or whoever else gets introduced later on.
Yeah, and there's growth in the characters.
Yes,
some of them.
Yes,
I mean, there's development, not necessarily growth in everyone.
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
There is. They're all flawed but nice and human. The characters that you have to interact with, and that's the biggest strength of everything. Like, no matter what you go against, there's always like this humanity behind it, in its worst and in its best. Like, it can vary.
And even though on the surface it looks like it's doing a very standard JRPG thing, the game, I think, works on several levels to ask questions about art and the relationship we have with art and what role it can have in our lives in a way that I've not seen any game done before. And I'm going to leave it at that because anything more will start spoiling things. But like Alan Wake does this a little bit, but it does this in a very pulpy and funny kind of way.
It is more playful, more pulpy. Yeah, you're correct. I think pulpy is a good way of putting it. It is more goofy and playful. It is more towards the approach of your Twilight Zone or X-Files. It's less existentialist in a way. This goes philosophical, emotional, and raw. It goes very hard on all fronts.
And it does so in a mature way. It is actually bold in the stuff that it does.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Like, nothing in it seemed safe, playing it safe to me. That's what separates it from a lot of other things. Not that Alan Wake plays it safe, but I think because their approach and aims are different, and also the vibe, I didn't come away from Alan Wake thinking that I've just had a profound experience with a piece of art. I've always enjoyed it, and it's always interesting to see all the meta ways in which it engages with that conversation of what is the relationship between the artist and the art and their art, and what is the relationship between the artist, their art, and their audience. But it does it in a, as I said, again, repeating myself, kind of pulpy, humorous, not as existentially heavy.
I mean, the questions that Clair Obscure poses, because the game plays a lot with grief. Like, it's all about grief for one reason or another, and grief can be different for everyone. But the things that it challenges you to face, they are hard. That bears to just mention that we're talking about something that has sensitive topics.
It is about grief, but ultimately I think above that, you can take that and replace grief with anything else. The dialogue it opens up in terms of the role of art in our life still stands. That's why I think it's so good.
I do want to know a little bit more about your thoughts, but I have a feeling that you cannot touch them without touching spoilers. So, yeah.
No, this is going to be in spoiler territory. I was struggling earlier where you said you put it in your top 3. And I'm like, I was thinking, I can't really put this game in my top 3 when I have so many issues with the gameplay. But what else is better than this in this regard? I don't know.
A Way Out.
Well, I can think of perhaps the Outer Wilds comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, the Outer Wilds is in my top 3.
My top 3 is Shadow of the Colossus, Silent Hill 2, and Outer Wilds.
Yeah, we have a similar top 3. Woo!
Outer Wilds stays in number 1. which one of the other two do I replace with Clarsure? Like, it's so difficult. All I can say is that it stands next to them and leave it at that.
That's interesting. I really did not expect you to have such a...
Me neither.
turn.
The way that, like, the first hour, I could believe that I could perhaps reach something like this. The 10 to 15 hours that followed the first hour, and you can attest to that with the stuff I was telling you on our chats, I was like, whoa, there's no way. There's no way. Like, I like some stuff about this game, but there's no way I can put this game anywhere on a top 10 or anything when I fucking hate so many things about it.
You said some cruel things in those hours, which generally were triggering me, and I'm like, he must be trying to just piss me off right now. So I was just like disengaging. I just did not want to hear it. To the point that I wanted you to stop the fucking game because I did not want to hear more fucking awful opinions.
I can be, when I'm in the heat of the moment, when I'm playing something, I can be a bit hyperbolic in the stuff I say to you.
Yeah, in the last few months I've realized that, and it's funnier now, but
okay, yes.
In the moment I was like, oh, come on, fucking idiot.
This is perhaps to keep in mind for anyone who also watches our streams, that they'll catch a bit of that live with me. I'll try to not to be a bit less inflammatory when I'm, talking in public because people don't really know me and they can't really calibrate that I'm being hyperbolic, perhaps a little bit on purpose. And it's just an emotional reaction in the heat of the moment, and that's not really what I actually think. But yeah, no, it stands next to those three games for me, even with the problems I have with it.
That's cool. As a final thing to put in the story, like, what happens next you don't expect? You might get clues into it. You might read into something that may be the case, and you might have theories. The way it plays out and how the game uses it to say an extremely unique story is one of a kind. Fucking lightning in a bottle kind of storytelling that is, I think, borderline genius.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the games that I'm feeling like can put the medium together with like good films,
Yeah.
That's a thing that I feel that elevates shit.
Just to be a bit fancy here, which is not really being too fancy because we're Greeks and it's a Greek word, but it sounds very fancy when you say it in English and people go, ooh, you know big words. But this game gave me a feeling of eudaimonia, which is the peak when it comes to experiencing art for me. But this is something that, for me, every great piece of art can achieve. That is the word eudaimonia is from the Greek word of daimonia, which means to feel good in spirit, if that makes sense.
I wanted to say enlightenment, that was the word.
It's transcendental as experience. That's the word.
Yes, also.
That's what this game was for me.
Having an awe-inspiring experience, it's 100% something that is achievable.
Awe-inspiring, that was a good word. Like, awful things happen in this game.
Yeah, it is a joyful thing, and it is something beautiful and rare, and the fact that this happens with the video game in 2025 is fucking awe-inspiring by itself.
Yeah, dude, like, the industry is in shambles, but at the same time, we're getting some of the best video games ever made. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, because people have things that they feel and that they're good artists, even if they're under a shitty industry or not. So yeah, play the game. Absolutely recommend.
I think we have covered all we can cover here for anyone who haven't played this game, and perhaps have given enough information for them to make up their mind if they want to play it. And if they do, now is the time to stop listening, because we're gonna head into some full spoiler modes here. So thank you everyone who's been with us up until now. Anyone who has finished it or has no intention of playing it, you can come along with us.
Yeah, I hope everyone plays it. I hope you enjoy it. If not, like, it's one of the things that I would like to hear people's opinions on. What was your takeaway messages? What was your experience? Like, please, like, find our email in the description. Just let us know. I would really love to hear what you think.
Yes. For anyone who is against reading descriptions, the email is podcast@voleandottergames.com.
That's podcast@vole&ottergames.com. Cool. And now we can unleash the beast and go crazy. Spoilers start now. Spoilers start now.
Continue at your peril.
You have 10 seconds to leave. 10, 9, 8.
We've preambled it long enough.
Go.
If anyone's listening to this while driving or something, they've had enough time to fumble, stop at a red light, park.
Yeah, if you've
whatever.
listened to it enough, we did not make it so fast that you had to react and crash. So if you
Hopefully
think about
no one died
suing
listening
us,
to this episode.
if you're trying to sue us, we gave you time. It was not our fault.
Good
All
luck.
right.
Also, we don't have any money, so it's pointless.
I'll send you peanuts and Pepsi's used litter. That's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
Cool. Okay. Spoilers. Spoiler time.
Spoiler time. I want to say this. Starting. I was mentioning earlier how this game has really, really good foreshadowing that you only can appreciate fully after you've played it through.
Mm-hmm.
While Gustav and Sophie are standing on the pier, Sophie says something along the lines of how she feels sad for the paintress and she wonders if she's also trapped in the cycle with him.
Mm-hmm.
And Gustav responds with, I think, only you could choose empathy at a time like this. And she says back, like, it's one of the few choices I can make.
Is that foreshadowing or is that foreshadowing for the real world, man?
It's foreshadowing for everything. That's why it's so brilliant, I think. It's foreshadowing for how to even approach this game.
Cool. Let's go from the beginning then. Sophie, for me, had an extremely important role to play in this, despite her being in the game for maybe 20 minutes, maybe less.
Yeah.
Like very quick, like an extremely like impactful words that were extremely. I should stop saying extremely all the time. That were particularly, I could relate to them a lot. Like she mentions how she does not want to bring kids in this doomed world, and the moment I hear that sentence, something in me just went all squiggly. It was not like it hit me quite hard.
Yeah, I think CL also had something similar that struck with me, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do to your kids is to not have them.
Yeah, which is dire. It's like a very hard thing to put down in words and actually realize that, like, me now in a real world with real people, not this made up world, not this story, I feel the same way. I don't know any of the developers in person or about their personality.
No, obviously.
But there is a lot of real, tangible empathy leaking a lot through in this game, from very small moments to very huge moments. And I can see that, like, if you're writing shit like this, I'm going to match with you in some way. Like, what you put down on paper is so humanist that I find it hard to believe that you're going to be one of the problem, let's say, one of the problematic people out there.
Yeah, that's why those lines from Sophie like struck me so much, and like that exchange between her and Gustav. Even though Gustav is, as I was saying, like an archetype of a kind, hopeful, supportive yet strong male character, his response to Sophie saying this is one of the few choices I can make is, I don't think I could do that. Like, even him cannot find the empathy in that moment, in that time. And she says, that's okay, you don't have to.
Yeah. From the beginning, I realized that, like, something will click with me. And that's why I was so enthusiastic as well to go through the game. That first scene in general. So the monster we talked about, the monster, the goddess, the god, the entity in the horizon that we talk about
in this place.
Yeah, it's a god. It's a god. It's called the Paintress. When I first saw the Paintress moving and doing the change of the numbers, like the numbers dropping down and everything, I was in all ways like in awe, but also completely fucking horrified of what I was looking. The game has such a approach to extremes that they put at the same time, yet they both work in equals. So throughout what happens in the expedition that you as Gustav partake in, what you get are the literal extremes of beauty and horror, sadness and joy. A whole range of human emotions just gets put on display in extremely raw forms. From the lowest that you can be to like Gustav seeing Mael again and like rekindling his hope about staying in the expedition, because right in the beginning of the expedition they get fucking slaughtered in a very brutal way.
Which sets the stage really quickly for what this juxtaposition of how they see death is going to be through the game, which is like up to that point, the way what we've seen is a very romanticized, very clean, very beautiful, peaceful passing where they basically dissolve into flower petals. But as soon as they land, when they leave on the beach, they get fucking slaughtered. There's blood everywhere. It's fucking messy. And like Gustav barely escapes. And then what he meets is a pile of bodies that are not decomposing. And at that point, he goes, I don't think I can go on. And we get introduced. No, we don't get introduced. We get introduced to I guess we know the character already, Lune.
Lune, yeah.
The game there makes a point for how you can take unwavering commitment to a purpose and straddle a very thin line between that becoming self-destructive and toxic, but also life-affirming. And it takes a while for Luna to get to life-affirming, but at that point, she literally affirms life, which I found very inspiring.
Luna is a very interesting character because she doesn't have the massive transformation that other characters get in the game. Luna's is very subtle.
Yeah.
And she starts off cold, distant, extremely like goal-oriented in the most negative way you could have. Like she puts aside a lot of things that are human and does not really allow herself to get recognized as a human being, does not allow herself to have feelings. She only focuses on the mission without a real purpose, as in like her purpose is not the correct one in the beginning, and that changes.
Yes, her purpose is not her own at that point, and it seems to me that she's clinging on to a purpose to get through the horror rather than actually having clarity on that purpose.
Yeah. Well, the purpose is friends. Okay, yeah. I know it sounds cheesy, but really, like, that's what it is. Like, it's the relationship that they make. Like, her purpose at the end changes to... Her purpose at the end changes for her to be herself. To do something for herself and the people that are around her, to help them survive.
Yes, at that point, her goal becomes something that is internally driven rather than fulfilling whatever the role that her parents gave her. Like she was an instrument in her family. She wasn't a child.
She had awful parents.
Yeah.
Like I generally dislike them. And that's the thing, like the game does not shy away from showing some shitty people.
Because the question that it asks, like that both Sophie rather and CL, the position that they put forward, which is, what does it mean to bring children into this world? Lune's parents, and they're not the only ones, see it as an obligation.
Tool.
Because it's a tool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a survival mechanism, not a loving deed, but a tool, a longevity, them grasping towards that quote unquote immortality that they will never get, rather than like. So one thing that was very impactful with them and what they talked about for me was that there's a lot of parents out there that have kids and they make them as an extension of their own and not allowing them to be their own people, rather than they have kids to live through them vicariously, while for them to make the achievements that they did not manage to, and they put all their hopes and dreams on them, and that kid is going to be fucking miserable.
Yeah, because those expectations can never actually be met. Those are standards that will never be met.
And that's Lune.
Yeah. However, I'm jumping forward a little bit as we're on Lune, and you say it's subtle. It looks a bit subtler than the other characters, but...
Yes, that's what I meant compared to...
Yeah, because ultimately how she grows and develops, and some of it happens with conversations with... We'll get to the character of Verso, because that's a very complex character.
And central.
But it's that the voices you have in your head of your parents are your own. It's your voice. They're not telling you to do anything. The standards you're holding yourself up to are your own at that point.
Yeah.
And you have a choice.
It is powerful shit. It is really powerful shit. Then that's why one of the reasons why Lune was my favorite. One of my favorites in the whole game. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about the main quote-unquote three.
Who are the main three?
I would say Gustav, because you start with them. You get tricked into believing that he's a protagonist. Mael and Verso. Verso gets in the picture a bit later. Okay, let's go through Gustav. We already touched upon him quite a bit. And in general, this game has a lot of male characters that just do not show in video games. And also female characters that don't show in video games. In general, all these people are people. And there was no moment that I did not believe that they were people, first and foremost.
Which is a very interesting thing. We'll come back to this.
Oh, yeah, we'll come back to this. Oh, the ending, yeah. Like, it's a juxtaposition to all the other games that you have all these broody men that kill a bunch, and they have like no space for them to be fun or have fun, or if they are fun, they're gonna have like Marvel quips. Like it's just so balanced and normal, and at the same time, I'm seeing him as someone that a lot of fucking weirdo right-wing Christian-y shits are gonna go like that's a beta male soy boy or whatever.
I'm not really familiar with all that stuff, so...
Good, don't be.
But also, like, displaying a wide range of emotions, because what the stereotypical male characters tend to have as an emotion is anger, enacted through revenge. Like,
yes,
they've lost something, and now they need to make someone pay for it.
A lot of the time, especially with video games and action movies, it's very easy to fall into the revenge trope. Or telling you, and then the movie could do, and the game could do whatever. Like, I tell you, oh, revenge is a bad thing, or oh, look how cool this guy is.
But yet, all they do is that. Yeah,
Gustav is really not that. He's literally just a teddy bear, like a guy just living with a hope that one day he'll stop it. He starts off very hopeful, and that changes over time.
Yeah, he's a good leader.
Yeah.
He falters, and Lune brings him back on to his feet. That's what I appreciated about Lune, that even before her growth, she was a stabilizing influence for Gustav. He wouldn't have gone anywhere past the beach without her. Yeah.
She was there at the right time.
And she did it in a way that was coming from her, not her parents.
Mm-hmm.
That's the great thing. Interestingly, juxtaposition to Gustav, we have Mael, who I think is the one who is really driven through revenge and pain here.
Yeah, Mael is in the beginning a bit of a mystery. She does not show a lot of who she is in the start. She's quiet, she's a bit distant compared to the rest. Only shows real warmth towards Gustav.
She's also separate from everyone else. Even from the beginning, like she's part of the expedition. She wants to come with. She's young.
Yes, she's young.
You do some math and you realize that like the people who go on the expeditions are on the last year. So they're 32 when the number is 33. So they have 1 year left. So there's, like, that's their final big attempt at making something meaningful out of their lives. Mael could have another, 9 years, I think?
I don't remember exactly, but she's significantly younger. Yeah.
Yeah, she's 16. So she has a life to live. She wants to leave Lumiere because it doesn't feel like her home, all that. Like, her motivations from the beginning to me seem different to everyone else's. She's almost an imposter in that expedition.
Yeah, compared to them, she looked like she was there just because Gustav was there.
Or because she just wanted to live something else, just to do something because she was bored at Lumiere.
Which I can see. In the beginning, I was relating it more to the fact that all these people had because there's a lot of infighting about, is the expedition even moral to let everyone go and just give their lives away pointlessly?
They choose to go.
But a lot of people, there are people in Lumiere in the beginning of the game that question your choice.
Yeah, okay.
And they say, like, why do you do that instead of staying here and, like, help us live with the people that are here, that we know that are alive? And, they're the people that want to actually make a change, and fair to them.
Try to get a better future, basically.
Yeah, so I was understanding Mel's motivation in the beginning, but I knew that there was a lot of cards that were held close to her heart.
What I'm saying here, though, is that her motivation didn't seem to have anything to do with a better future in Lumiere. She didn't give a fuck about Lumiere.
She just did not want to be there.
Yeah.
Which I also understand.
Also, in the wider context of who she is.
Yeah.
Why she does what she does. This is like the biggest foreshadowing that the game could have had.
Yeah. So, other characters that we have is Shiel, who, as we said before, she also starts off a little bit mysterious, but very warm compared to Mael. Yeah. She is a person that has lost a child and a husband, as we find out eventually in the game.
Oh, wait. Did she have a child?
Yeah.
Well, it was just her husband, and she was pregnant, but she didn't know. Did she actually have a child?
Well, an unborn child.
Well, yeah, okay, but she didn't know about it.
In the visions that she saw, she was seeing the husband holding a kid.
Yeah, oh no, fair enough. Yeah, right.
Okay, maybe she did not have the child, but...
Right. Got confused a bit
but
with that.
Her grief was for a kid.
Yes, no, you're right. I got a little bit confused with, because I know she didn't have a child, but yes, I was going to say spoilers, but yeah.
We are in the spoilers if you're here still.
Yeah, so
whatever.
She tried to she swam out to the sea to drown herself in her despair, and a side character, Eskie, saved her, unbeknownst to her, because she lost consciousness and then she found herself back in Lumiere. But what she didn't know was that she was pregnant and she lost the child while making that attempt. But after that, she seems to have made peace with death almost, and then has a much more open...
It is her that says that death is a friend that I will welcome.
But I will not seek.
Yeah, which... It is a very strange character, because she both... Like, she wants to live and have the experiences, and she's happy to live with the grief that she has gathered over the years, but still does not shy away from death itself.
She's accepted it as an inevitability of life, and she is living not in the shadow of it and not reactively to her anxiety about it. That's what I got from her. That's why when we get to the mask keeper or whatever was that action, she didn't fall for it, and her reaction was, this mask cannot hurt me because it's me. I'm not hiding.
To me, Shiel was almost the role model out of the whole group.
In some ways, yes. Yeah.
Like, I would aspire to be this well maintained in a way, to be able to, like, sustain myself in such, like, horrible situations, yet still seek joy and pleasure and fun.
Yeah.
That's fantastic for me. I love the CL. Yeah. My LCL, Luna, Gustav. That's what we start with.
Yeah.
And when you arrive at the beach, a mysterious old guy is the one that drives the slaughter.
And everyone's like, what the fuck? How are you old?
Yeah.
But it wasn't even that. It was, what the fuck? You're old. It's like, I almost laughed at that point.
Yeah. Also, the game does poke it like fun on itself for having characters that are not JRPG age.
Yeah.
In the beginning, which is very cute. But yeah, like after this shocking thing, like you know that like you have a villain. That villain, like you start with assumptions and everything. You don't know who he is, and he's consistent. He's a consistent character. Eventually, you get to meet Eskie, who in the beginning you hated.
Yeah. I didn't vibe with him at all. I think this was part of my whole negative reaction to getting out in the world and thinking, I'm going to say this as it came to mind. And I'm going to say this because the way it came to mind fit with the fucking game so well later, which is, this seems so fucking childish.
Yep. Yep. So the gestural that you have, which is basically the paintbrushes, the little how are they called, the human models that you pose? I don't know how they're called.
I don't know. The thing that they brought to mind were like the little troll thing is that when I was a child, you could just trolls, you could put them on top of like your pencils or something, and they had like spiky hair or something.
I laughed a lot when you said it because like I saw them as paintbrushes from the beginning.
Right.
So when you said that like you called them Volides, I started laughing by myself because I did not make that connection at all.
Right.
It was completely out of left field for me. I love the gesturals from the beginning. They were baffling. Also, their very broken French was funny.
Yeah, I suppose bafflement would have been a better, in terms of my experience, response to that rather than, what the fuck is this shit? This is what you made? Like, I don't know what I expected. I expected something because the way it presents the predicament, I expected the tone to be different. But then the tone changed massively through different parts.
And that's what I was saying before, that the game lives in contrast, in complete fucking contrast. Yeah. And it goes from completely fucking dire to having like little posable human figures with a paintbrush for a head, loving to fight each other and referencing memes. Like it goes so far away from the like awfulness of how it was as a first experience in the world, in the real world outside of Lumiere.
It's like a child's, how to put it, like playground.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing, because it is.
Yeah, exactly. And Eskie is like a mythical creature that they reference in the beginning of the game in Lumiere. Just a big ass balloon, and he speaks funny, and it is the most like, he's literally the teddy bear of the thing. Yeah. He's the soothing character, and which, as you will know because you listen to this part, turns out that this whole world is a fake. Not a fake, but it's a painting made by these two kids, Verso and
well, at the point where we are in the game, that canvas is an amalgamation of whatever the kid made, whatever the parents have put in their grief, whatever the parents
did later and the sister did later, that's separate. The world itself was built by them, by Verso and Alicia. Alicia or Aline?
Alicia. Not Alicia. It was what's her name? Clea. Clea was playing with Verso in there.
Yeah.
Alicia. That's the thing that we'll get to Alicia and why I ended up not disliking her, but I didn't dislike anyone. But she was an immature child all the way through, in my opinion.
Both Verso and Alicia were very mature in their own ways.
In their own ways, and it makes, okay. We'll get to, let's talk about the specifics and then we'll get to the overall interpretation, because I think they make a lot of sense in how they are and what they do and what their motivations are based on where they're coming from and who the creators are.
So we already know that this all has been made by kids, so it makes sense towards the end why SK is such a warm, inviting figure in the whole thing. And he has some particularly iconic moments like vomiting wine for everyone, or the Whoo quote, which must be one of the nicest little fuzzy moments of the whole game. In general, the game like breaks away to have like small moments between characters that are so personal and just joyful to watch.
They're very human, very touching, very tender. Like you get we'll get to Verso and his character, but like one of the gestrels that you find comes with you is Monoko. And Monoko is, as you find out later, is inspired by the family's dog. So when you know this,
he makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense because he's behaving like a fucking dog.
We'll talk about Monoko too.
Because he looks initially like this gruff, kind of warlike, let's fight all the time kind of character.
Yeah, I always thought of him like modeled almost out of a baboon or a mandrill, rather. Because of the mane, basically, that he has. Monoko is a hilarious character. He's extremely childish, has like extreme reactions. He makes mistakes and starts crying. And at some point, he wanted to do something to show off, and he just hurts other characters and starts screaming, "I'm sorry, I just wanted to show off."
Which is fucking dog.
Yes. Or Verso later on trying to convince him to join the expedition, and he says, I'm not coming. And Verso goes, there's going to be a lot of fighting. And it says, oh yeah? Yeah, there will be. Okay, I'll count me in then. It's like so stupid, like such a pure character. Monoko was a joy.
And at the same time, they have like these very soft personal moments with Verso, which is exactly how you'd expect to have a relationship with a dog. Like one of the highlights for me was when they did their hairstyles.
Yeah, same. The hair moment was fantastic.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And the way the game does the interactions with the characters and how it develops the bonds and the relationships between them is you have some exchanges. You get some small choices for dialogue responses once in a while. And then it kind of fades to black and it describes a little bit their interaction after that. And when the whole thing with the hairstyle happens, and the game says something like this, that Verso and Monoko have bonded over their manly appreciation of hairstyling or something.
Yeah. As a game, it just doesn't... I love that it's not afraid to be goofy and stupid at times, and it is charming. Okay, we need to get to Verso, which means that we also need to get to the moment that somehow the game manages to become more real.
Okay, so Mael, as you see her from the beginning, has no real motivation about going on the expedition other than, I'm bored, I don't care about Lumiere, I want to do other stuff. I want to leave this place. This is not my home. That is not enough of a driver, and it doesn't seem convincing enough. And I was wondering, how the hell is she gonna get through this? Like, they're going up against existential terror.
Yeah,
and she's coming across it as like, tra la 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 la, I'll go have an adventure against existential terror. It seemed disconnected to how central and how the drive that everyone else had to go through this. It wasn't existential terror for her. She went lightly a little bit into it. And then old guy appears on a cliff at some point.
Yeah. I felt out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I did not see it coming. The game does a major change there. Just off Gustav, like just on the spot. End of Act 1.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I did not know where it was going to go from there. Also, the game hid it very well because Gustav even had like locked skills. Had locked skills in his character menu, like all the other characters had, that you knew they're gonna unlock as soon as you level them up. The game was trying to fool me to thinking that he's gonna stay there. So whatever happened was very effective in the moment, and that's when Mael's real quote unquote motivation comes in.
And what does that scene mirror?
What do you mean?
How that scene played out? Did it remind you of anything, or that you saw later in the game?
Go ahead, say what you want to say with it.
In real life in the game, how did Alicia, who is Mael, get injured? How did Verso die?
Wait, in a fire?
Yeah, under what circumstances did that happen?
Because they said that... They do mention the writers, which is a different type of godly entity that also probably creates life like the painters do in our case.
Yeah.
What about... I'm not seeing the connection.
Okay, so there's a meta level here of how to view this, which is the writers killed Verso. The writers killed Gustav. Mael couldn't do anything because she had no control over it. She played a role in it in that she was partly responsible, as Verso says later, that this had to happen. Verso could have prevented it, but he didn't, because he didn't trust that Mael would go through with it and accept him if Gustav was there and do what needed to be done. So on a meta level, the writers killed Gustav. The writers killed Verso. Mael played a part, and then she blamed herself for not being able to do anything about it. And that was her entire motivation, both in and out. That's where she acquired some motivation. Whatever that one motivation was, I think was very, very, what word to use here, dysfunctional? But the way it was framed, we see later on a flashback of how Verso died in their home, in the fire. He kind of sacrificed almost himself to protect Alicia, because she tried to save him and he kept her from that so that she wouldn't die. Gustav does the same. Like, I think in some ways, Gustav is the reflection of the real Verso in that game, in that painting. And if we think of where all these characters come from, initially the world was made by Verso, and it's this playful playground where he and Clea would come in and play when they were kids. But all the other stuff, all the Lumiere inhabitants and everything, are from Aline, their mother. After she stepped into the painting, when she lost Verso, to try to hold on to whatever of him was in there and create a fake world where everything was okay, and she could just stay close to whatever was left of him in his work.
Okay.
So and then we come to my overall interpretation of here, that whatever she put in it has elements and reflections of how she sees her family, but it's a little bit warped. But at the same time, it's doomed, because she starts creating at that point from a place of pain and loss and grief, and it will come through everywhere. None of these characters will have any happy ending or will live any fulfilling life, because she's creating from pain and pain alone at that point. Somewhere deep inside her, there's a wiser part of her. We see that perhaps reflected very much in Ciel. I see Ciel as a reflection of Aline's healthy side, who is still coming through in her work, and she's struggling to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that she has this wisdom in her when, in the final scene, Renoir, the dad, says that he nearly got lost in in the canvas until Aline, his wife, taught him how to control his power and to not be lost in there and to recognize the separation, the difference between living in a fantasy world and living in the real world and being able to step in and out of it and use it for personal growth. So that all that part comes from Aline. And I think Ciel represents that part of her throughout the thing. That's why she's come so close to ruin and come back from it. But Aline is not able to see this. So in a way, Gustave is how perhaps she perceived the essence of Verso that she lost, not the essence of Verso that is in the painting because that's what Verso made. And then Verso in the painting is not the mirror image or like the reflection of the actual Verso, but is more like a reflection of Renoir, because he's the one who's willing to do everything that he can to protect his family, which is where my ending comes in, what I chose, reflected and symbolized in doing the hard thing at the end to save his sister. And these are stuff that people with life experience, maturity, and enough of a stable core in themselves would be able to create, which Alicia is not and does not have it. She's not an artist yet. She's consumed by her trauma at that point, and all she wants to do is escape from it and deny it and not recognize it at any point. And we see it in how superficial her motivations are, even as Maëlle is completely naive to who she is at the beginning, and then her motivation becomes, I'll take revenge on the paintress because I lost my brother. And later on in her creations are mimicry. She brings back the characters after they die, but she can only make stuff other people have made because she has not grown enough herself. She doesn't have the wisdom to make art. She can copy things. And she doesn't believe in herself that she can do it, which is what Verso tells her at the end. I don't know what ending you chose. I'm guessing you sided with Maëlle at the end, if I'm going to hazard a guess.
I sided with Maëlle, yes.
Okay.
Between all the people that I've talked to, it seems like it's the less popular choice. But there is an extra kind of talk that never gets brought up in all these discussions about it. Because in the end, yes, we learned that the painting is we are living in a painting. They are all creations, and they are all being survived desperately by someone that's just afraid of letting go of a memory.
Who is distorted and warped at this point because they've painted over it so many times. Yeah. And interestingly, Alicia kind of takes ownership almost of it in a way that she has no right almost to that, if I'm going to be a bit harsh. Which, when was this dialogue from Clea? So as you go through the game, you come across some shadowy figures that are the echoes of the actual people that are that have created the painting. And I think at some point the Clea echo tells Alicia that Alicia at that point says something, Alicia/Maëlle, about how this is, she says something, I don't remember the word specifically, but something about taking ownership of the canvas. And Clea says, I spent way more time in here with Verso when we were kids making stuff together. You've barely spent any time in here. You've barely made anything. This is not your painting.
Yeah, but do you remember why she barely spent any time in this? Because her mom was not allowing her. Her mom kept telling her, you're not good enough. She was not championing her the same way that she was championing the other two kids. Because
yes. And here we come into another interesting bit of mirroring in Lune, because I think that's where that had been expressed into the art from those people, which is Verso didn't want to paint either. Verso wanted to make music. Alicia wanted to write.
What I was seeing basically in the whole world is a world that has been made by two parents.
Yeah.
Completely disregarding how their fucking kids feel. Which my interpretation comes in, that the Sanders are kind of pieces of shit.
They're very broken. I think at the end, Renoir is trying to do the right thing, but he is doing it in a bit of an extreme way, which I can understand to an extent, because the way the game ends is like having an addict tell you, it's okay, I can stop whenever I want, trust me.
Look, I'm going to go back to my interpretation on like another thing that no one brings up, which is, yes, this is people that are created, but at what moment did you question their existence? Did you question their humanity? Did you not think that these people deserve to live as much as the Descendants do, if not more, because they are living under that shadow? No one brings up, like,
Which people?
I'm talking about the people in the painting. I'm talking about Lune,
right.
Ciel, like those lives. Why are they to be shut down? Because these people just did not control the power. And this is a moment that I would also compare this a little bit to Blade Runner, because like it brings up to how, what does make us human, what makes our lives like worth something. And we're going to talk about Blade Runner more in general.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I see what you mean. But I think the question from my perspective is irrelevant, because what you're essentially arguing here is that well-written characters feel real, and we suspend their disbelief and believe they're real characters with motivations and lives, and root for them and feel for them as if they are actually real. Because none of these are real from our perspective.
From our perspective.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But that's the thing. It's like, are the, I can't pronounce their name, but is the quote unquote real family real people? What happens when you shut the game off?
You're pushing it a little bit further than I want to argue for. It is a little bit of an extreme push there. Like, you're stretching it.
I don't really think I'm stretching it, because I think that it's asking, like, what you're asking is our relationship with art, and whether we can consider and find humanity and empathy for people who are made up as if they are real, which, yes, we can.
But the difference between that is that you're in a world that's magical, and they magically created the world. No matter how the way is, those people in there, they feel pain, grief, fear, happiness, and joy, like everyone else does outside the painting. That's the difference.
I don't take that literally in this case.
It can be a symbolism for something, but in the context of the world, they have created life and they have a responsibility. For me.
So then you're asking the same question that I guess Alan Wake asks, ironically, which is, do you have responsibility towards your characters as if they are human beings?
Well, if they are human beings like they are in this game, yes. That is the big chasm in this question. That in real life, no.
I'm going to say this, but then I want to explore how you interpret it. That from my perspective, that is the boring question here, because it's taking it literally. It's engaging with it in the boring way that Mael/Alicia is engaging with it, which is the escapism, treating this as if it's real and letting a parasocial relationship take over your life, instead of engaging with it with the being cognizant that this is a work of art and it cannot be a replacement for anything. I've lost some people and I'm trying to hold on to this by living in a fantasy, which can be, even if you've not lost anything, that the escape into fantasy can be a thing, like a coping mechanism, even for coming across life as a whole. And some people can't handle it, and they would rather escape into fantasy, and they have difficulty learning from the fantasy, like entering and exiting, so that they can take the inspiration into their life rather than live something else that is a substitute. At least that's how I'm seeing it. So then asking the question from my perspective of, do you see them as real people? Well, yes, the same way I see every character in every story I read as real people, and I empathize, but that's it. I don't, they exist in the world, and this is how, like, I don't know, when games end, there's a sense of grief and loss in me every time I end, because that world now stops existing in a certain way. Like, there's a point where the clock stops ticking, time stops passing, and that makes the world, like, those characters either frozen completely in time, or in some way I lose them. But I don't, because I still have them with me. Like, those voices are my voices now. The same way that Luna talked about this, the same way that Verso talks about it at the end to Alicia, of like, you have a life, you can paint, you can create other worlds, you can make art. This is not it. Make your own. Don't live in someone else's creation. I don't know if you saw the ending, the other ending.
I've seen both endings.
But anyway, that's from my perspective. So, like, when you ask your question, like, where do you take it? Like, what does that mean?
What do you mean, where do you take it?
You're posing that question almost as a rhetorical, but what is the meaning you're taking away from that?
Well, if we're to take it literally as in the story, the character, like, and I don't think either ending is the right ending. I don't think there is a right and wrong. I think they're all people, like, in both sides, Renoir and Alicia, they're people that are not dealing with their grief the correct way. Renoir has gone straight up and just decided to delete the memories, to delete the work, to completely pull away people, like ripping off a band-aid, while grief is something that takes time to get over. It takes ages to get over. And I understand you're reading on the meta-narrative level, and I agree with it to an extent. I don't think it is essential to the story between the characters itself. I think this is a reading, and I agree with it, but I don't think the meta kind of narrative necessarily affects the between character drama and dramatization in there.
Okay, so let's leave the meta aside then, and just let's dive into the literacy of it, I suppose, then, for a different perspective.
When I was playing it, and the way that I approached it is that I spent 2 acts with these people as real people. And what I've seen is that they've created a society, they created life, they walk, they speak, they love, they laugh and everything. In any point, I did not agree that deleting this just because your family has issues is acceptable. At the same time, I did not agree that creating this world and this life and this kind of like awful existence is necessarily a good way to cope in either. I find both sides being in the wrong. They're both people that are dealing with their grief in ways that no one should, and that's why that's what I got from the game specifically, is that you cannot grasp on whatever is keeping you in the past when you lose something, but you cannot delete it completely from existence.
Oh, yeah, if that's your take, yes, I have no objection or disagreement with that. I agree 100%. I think on the whole, that was the point. If we were going to take that perspective, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I really don't think there is a right ending. I saw both. It was harder for me to go through to picking Verso, because, as I said, I recognize these people in the painting as people, and as lives you're ripping out of existence just because you were irresponsible with the choices that you made. Because I think this family is like deeply flawed, and their actions created more suffering than anything else. And at least the least they could do is just allow these people to at least live. But the way that Maëlle took it in her end was cruel and selfish.
Yeah.
As it was cruel and selfish for Renoir to rip everything away from Maëlle.
I don't know if it was. I don't think he was doing it for himself at that point. Like, he was trying to, like, help her stay alive. Like, she was killing herself, right?
Well, the way that it played out in the scene itself showed to me that it was selfish, because there was no moment of real empathy shown towards Mael in the last scene. They are on top of Versa's grave. They leave her by herself. Mael is doomed to have a
Right.
shit life with them, like it or not. So she could live, even if it's artificial, she could live a little bit of joy in there anyway, even if it was a lie. But living with the Desandres has doomed her to be miserable for the rest of her life, because Renoir is selfish and he will not accept her way.
What is her way?
Another extreme. It's another extreme. Like, as I said, neither of them is right. There needed to be some balance in there, and there clearly is not.
Yeah, I agree that the point made is that destruction, whether that is destruction of something or self-destruction, is not the way to move on. But at the same time, I can understand Renoir and Verso more in that if someone you care about is destroying themselves, sometimes ripping off a band-aid is the kindest thing you can do.
Yes. But again, I did not see Renoir as really caring for Mael. I saw Renoir maybe caring for his wife.
I think he cared about her as well. And if he didn't care, like, it might not have been super obvious, like the shadow of him, the Renoir who appeared at the beach and the Renoir who killed Gustave, he was a narrative device. The actual Renoir, I think he cared. The way at least I interpret it and see Verso in the painting as a reflection of the actual Renoir, that's because the actual Renoir actually cared. And Aline also believed this, and that's why he made Verso this way. And he wrote him like that. Does that make sense?
Maybe saying he didn't care is a bit extreme. Maybe what I meant is that he did not care the right way. I don't think he helped Mael in any real way. Mael did not go out of it grown up, or Alicia, rather. She still lives with that grief. She still lives with that guilt that they have put into them, and they made no attempt to fixing.
She has more of a chance of growing from it now, like in that ending than in the other ending. And also, if we are going to argue on the ethics of destroying the world within the painting, Alicia doesn't actually see this. She doesn't have the clarity of mind to see that if I deal with this responsibly, this can keep existing.
No, she does not see it. As said, like, it is approached extremely selfishly, and you can also see it as like a very grim, also ending of Verso basically being puppeted to play music for them. It is a very cruel like ending.
I know. Like for all her talk about like I don't know, autonomy and making your own choices, he denies him his actual desire. Like he gommages the other people who want to be gommaged, but he will keep Verso around because she's too selfish. Not too selfish. She cannot let go. She's too immature to write art that is not fan fiction. To bring it back to the meta level of my perspective, like to kind of marry the two.
Well, or it's too saying that she's too immature also is a bit cruel, I find, because her immaturity comes in how she was treated.
I don't mean it in an offensive way or to like disparage her. It's like just literal immaturity, because she's also young. She's lived a life that's been shadowed by expectations and her siblings.
Yeah.
I think that's why perhaps she latches on to this almost false idea that she has this true connection with Verso, which is not real, really, as Clea points out. Like, you were not the one playing around here and creating this stuff with Verso. But that's also because of how, like her mother, like, I don't know, didn't see her up to par, but then she wasn't allowed to pursue her stuff the same way Verso wasn't. And I would perhaps on that argue that that painting doesn't mean as much as these people think. Because Verso didn't want to paint. He wanted to make music. So he painted to play, and he painted to please his parents. And that's why he wanted to stop painting. Like when you come across his echo, he wants to stop. He wants the other people to stop like painting stuff over his stuff, and he wants to just stop painting. That's his actual essence in there, which is, I don't want to do this. Let me go.
No, he did not. And that's the thing where I find there's like complete disbalance between the two choices, which I find brilliant. I'm not complaining like other people were. Because when I picked the happy ending, I knew that there was going to be caveats, but I did it with my own ethics in mind. As I said, like to me, the Descendants had the responsibility. They fucked the child. They are now fucking a world for their own sense, and they're not even trying to actually bring things back to balance.
And yet it's all the writer's fault. I love that meta level on this game.
It's funny. It's funny. Also, unfortunately, I find a lot of open doors for them to make a sequel about the writers or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm apprehensive about this.
Same, and I think they're gonna do it, but whatever. We'll see.
Don't want to know about the real, quote-unquote, real-life espionage intrigue between the painters and the writers and Clea's revenge.
Whatever. I hope that's not the case.
Clea, by the way, like Lune, is a reflection of Clea in so many ways, because she is very cold, very driven. She doesn't. She doesn't even acknowledge how hard it is for Alicia, and she was like, "You need to do this and hide it from the parents," and blah blah blah. It's like without really guiding her at all.
Yeah, which is a very strange way of mirroring, because like all these people that they have created in the painting, they have like these reflections of the characters in real life, and all of them in the painting, like through their own experiences, learn, mature, and change, while the real people, like the Descendants, stay in the same fucking shit, and they don't understand how to help each other and connect. They're so doomed.
Yeah, I think on the mental level, I see that as a hopeful, like that hope that comes from Gustav almost, that sometimes you can be messed up and you create something, and it's hard to see that there is a little bit of light in what you made. And that's where art can actually help you. Because if these people could actually see what they've actually created, it would probably help them. Instead of try to use it as escapism.
Yes, that's the thing. Like the whole thing treated in such like minute balance, and the solutions in there were so rooted in empathy, and none of the real characters had it.
Yeah.
So none of them could approach this correctly. None of them could help each other.
Apart perhaps from the real Verso and Noko, I don't know.
Noko is a dog.
Dogs have empathy.
They do. I mean, probably if they let it for dogs, they would just, actually.
But I do wonder, like, if we see Gustav as the reflection of the actual Verso, then perhaps Verso was the healthiest of that family.
Maybe, but also Verso is fucked up. Is a scared little boy with like apprehension about doing everything.
That's true.
To me, that's also like one thing that I was seeing, is that the people in the painting are people that have lived hardship, real hardship, and they are growing, while the people outside the painting that they have been living in luxury, they just like lost in infighting and disagreement without actually being human to each other, which is an extra like thing that was making me not want to just delete these people, you know. And if I was to choose like an ideal ending, which A, it's not cinematic. B, it does not show the message as hard as it did now. Would be to just start understanding Alicia, spend time with her, fucking talk to her, allow her to be in a world that she feels more comfortable, while slowly showing her that she can actually have a life outside of it too. You know, love the kid, for fuck's sake.
I think you could argue that they all need this, because like when you come across the paintress, she has like a giant void in her heart, right?
They all have voids.
They have voids for faces, but they also like they're all grasping at something that they cannot move on from. And Renoir has reached the point where he's not doing this, but he is going the extreme way now of I need to destroy this because it's destroying the family, which is an extreme thing. Like there's no happy ending here.
No.
The happy ending would be the fan fiction, would be what Alicia was trying to do.
The happy ending would be for Alicia to get therapy and actually like fucking allow the people to live in the painting without fucking their lives over their own trifles. Which I'm not wishing for. I'm not saying make a third ending and make it that. I don't want that. Like I like it as it is, because like if you want a hard hitting fucking message, you need to make an impact, and you would not make an impact by giving me a cutscene that moves forward 6 months with Alicia getting therapy.
Yeah.
that would be kind of lame.
So on the meta level, you need to make hard choices that would be bad for characters for the art to have more impact, is what you're saying.
On the meta level, you have to make hard choices that would be bad for characters. I think I agree with that, you know? Interesting stories are not made without characters suffering. Which is funny. On a meta level, I don't like it. It doesn't work straight in the story. Like I'm not saying like everything you need to read like for that.
No, it works when we see it from the outside as players, as co-authors, even because we also make decisions. It
is weird though, because it might be meta on the meta level when you were talking about the relationship with the art, because then you create the layer on top because the writer themselves would create a relationship with the art by making hard choices, by making it more difficult for the audience. It's deep, man, fucking deep. Anyway,
but that's why I think it's brilliant though.
I know,
because it works on all these levels.
I agree, and I really like your interpretation. It's very. I did not approach it fully like that. I was seeing what you were saying, but I did not apply it in my ethics. Let's say.
Yeah,
it is interesting to see it on the other side. My approach was humanist and character driven.
Yeah. I kind of expected that we would have approached it differently here, because you tend to be a bit more character driven than I am in these games.
Yes, like I do like the. I am very character driven.
No, I'm not saying this as a criticism. It's more like that's your style. That's fine. Like,
no.
Makes it more interesting.
I always think that in order to have strong themes, you need to make strong characters. Otherwise, it's redundant. Like it doesn't matter. If you don't hook me with the players, I'm not gonna be hooked in what you're trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Which, to me, when it comes to this game, it's a perfect storm. What was put on paper and on the screen here was 10 out of 10. Like, I did not expect to get such an experience, such a profound experience. I did not expect to be changed this year. The fact that it happened also from a developer that I had no previous experience with, I find it impressive.
Yeah.
Seriously impressive. Like some serious writing chops there.
We haven't mentioned explicitly, like we said earlier, how this game takes a lot of tropes and then subverts them. And I think the biggest subversion was this idea. The premise seems to be we're going up against a god to save the world. And we save the world, and the world dies. because we killed the god of this place.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! The ending of Act 2.
Brilliant.
I thought the end of Act 1 was like the peak of what I was gonna get in matters of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then they literally wipe the entire thing off, which is like so cruel.
They
is-
did it to themselves, though. They banished the creator. So it made sense.
They banished the protector because Aline was with the last of her powers keeping them alive.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it was very ironic and cruel because they were doing what they thought that was gonna save them. Brilliant fucking writing.
She was the creator of them and was protecting them because the Gestrels were doing fine on their own.
Well, they were dying a lot.
Yeah, but they were being reborn. Little Verso had foreseen everything.
Also, it's funny to see that like they were fighting a god, or they were trying to kill a god, only to realize that their enemy was humans.
Uh-huh.
It's just fantastic. In every possible way, the way they planned everything. Careful notes towards the ending, careful little fucking clues throughout the game that you go back and you go, so that's where you were building up here. It's like, in general,
Yeah.
I found it masterful.
Okay, so
I think we've finally reached the conclusion. I want to see how long the actual episode is going to be. Now that we're recording, we are at 3 hours, 25 minutes.
Yeah, but we took a bit of a break.
We did take a bit of a break. We have a lot of extra stuff that we said that are not necessary.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
We'll occasionally get these episodes because if we are going to really pick apart a game that we both loved, there's a lot to say.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we said it, and I'm glad that I got to actually say the things that I was thinking about the characters themselves, because no one approaches it like this. So I think maybe it's of value to someone, or maybe someone has not said it and they were like, "Oh, no one's saying it," and I did. So there you go. Yes,
yeah, and this is a reflection of who we are, and how we have co-authored this piece by our engagement with it. Death Stranding next?
Full analysis. Did you ever finish it?
No, I've not.
No.
I've gotten distracted by other games, including this one, and I'm so glad I did, because, I had other plans for the summer, but I ended up playing this.
This one is a good one. Death Stranding, is a good winter game. I would say it's a nice winter game, so maybe...
No, I'm not. I want to play a few shorter things first, and also we're heading into a time where both and I were gonna be dipping into PS2.
Yep.
And since you are doing it, I want to do part of it so we can talk about some old games together.
Sure, I'm really excited to get into Silent Hill finally.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited for you to get into Silent Hill finally, so we can have some discussion.
I have 3 games in front of me that are staring at me, being like, "It's time." It's time. It's time to do it. Right.
So, thank you everyone for listening. This was a long one, and this meant a lot to us. If you have some very different interpretation about this, please do get in touch, because this is interesting stuff. Like, we will defend and argue for our interpretations, but I think every interpretation here is valid if you can argue for it in a way that makes sense.
Everyone's interpretation is valid. It's their own interpretation, how they feel. They don't need to make it make sense. It's not a debate.
I mean, if you can articulate it in the way that can make sense outside of your head, which sometimes is the difficult part for someone else to...
If it makes sense, sense is made. Making sense makes sense, and making sense over the sense of others does not mean you're making less sense of your own sense when you're making it.
No, it's only helping others make sense of how you've made sense of something, so it's making sense so another can make sense of your own sense.
Which is a very sensible idea to make, and sensible choice to make. And it makes sense to make that choice. Making sense while making the choice.
It shows good sensibilities.
Good sensibilities and the making of a sensible person.
Yeah.
And this game is sensational.
Thank you, Sense.
ありがとうございます。